Okay, so it's time to advance the in-floor heat project in the coach. As I showed you before, the floor is down. Those orange tubes are the 3/8 PEX lines, 2 circuits, one for the front of the coach and one for the back. They're in, they're ready to go. What I need to do now is replace the hot water heater. That foam box down there is well, it's practically new. It's only a couple years old. Atwood hot water heater, and it's been fine. But I actually much prefer the technology in the Suburban hot water heaters, mainly because they're deeper, which means the heat tube, which starts here, travels quite a bit longer before it comes out again. Hopefully making better heat exchange. Plus, the Suburban offers something called the motor assist, which is basically another heat coil, basically a heat exchanger. This copper pipe, these 2 copper pipes, are heat exchangers that go through the hot water heater that's independent of the potable hot water, the hot water that you use for washing. Intended to run engine coolant through it in a motorhome so that the excess heat from the engine would heat your hot water. I'm going to use it backwards. Basically, I'm going to have the hot water heater heat the water, and therefore this becomes an independent loop which I can run RV antifreeze in, not RV, it'd be plumbing antifreeze, so that the whole in-floor heat loop doesn't have to be drained down in winter. It can always be just an independent loop that has antifreeze in it, like it would in a home. Now, I'm a little concerned though. As soon as I got this and unpacked it, I saw that the pipes were right on the very edge, which kind of tells me that these may not actually go into the tank. They may just be a coil wrapped around the outside of the tank, especially because the Suburban hot water heaters are normally this sort of octagonal shape, whereas this one has this insulated sheathing over it, which I believe is really just to cover up this coil. So that's not going to make a very effective heat exchanger, and believe it or not, to get a lot of heat out of heat exchangers, you need a lot of surface area. Like, I was really hoping that these pipes would go into the tank and loop around quite long, 10 feet or longer. To get the kind of heat exchange I want, to get enough power under the floor, I want 6 or 10 feet of immersed half-inch copper tube in hot water with the temperature differential I'm looking at. So I'm a little disappointed, but obviously we'll see how it goes. At worst, I may have to run potable water through the floor, which isn't the end of the world. Which means I have a longer winterizing cycle. But I'm going to try and figure out how long this pipe is. I tried emailing and calling technical support at Suburban, but they just don't know. The people I talked to didn't really even know about the motor assist coils at all. So what I'm going to do is fill them with water. And by calculating the volume of water I put in, I should be able to calculate, well, I will be able to calculate the length of the copper pipe that's in there. So I'm going to use my very accurate graduated cylinder, basically my little mixer thing. I'm glad to see that the lines, the graduated lines, get further apart as they get further down the narrow bottom of the vessel. Anyway, so we'll see how much water we can put in there, and then we can calculate from that how long the pipes are. Okay, I wish I had a funnel, but let's see how well I can pour this in here. I started with 700 cc's, and I'd like to get at least all of this in here. Well, I haven't done the math yet to figure out what the volume conversion is. I'm gonna have to convert it. Oh my gosh, it's full. This is a very, very short loop. I got, let's have a look, just about 200 milliliters, or 20, oh my gosh. Anyway, let's do some math. Okay, so I looked it up, 45 cc's per linear foot. Please excuse the mixed units. Basically, my graduated cylinder was in cc's, and my future math for thermal capacity is in imperial. So I got roughly 200 cc's in there, divided by 45, 4.5 feet. I mean, not desperate, but, and that doesn't even count what's sticking out of here. So 4 feet. And basically this loop probably goes down, around, and up. And that's it. I'm not terribly confident that that's going to give me an awful lot of heat exchange for what I need. Oh well. But I have the boiler. It's a combination gas and electric. The advantage of that is, of course, anytime I'm in a campground, I can plug in to heat. It's also an electric start inside switch for that. It's a nice hot water heater, no doubt about it. But the motor assist loop doesn't look all that promising. But in theory, let's see what it's like in practice. So it's time to install it. Got to pull out the old Atwood and install the Suburban, which has a different size opening, so I have to do some fairly serious surgery to the side of the coach and repairs. Part of me is thinking, well, that's already in place. If I'm going to have to use the domestic loop, maybe I'll just use that hot water heater and flog this on eBay. I don't know what I'll do. Cheers. Alright, so getting the old Atwood hot water heater out was relatively trivial. It's amazing how a hot water heater that's only a couple of years old can look quite shabby after a relatively short period of time. Anyway, it was working perfectly well. I have this plan that I'll use it in a houseboat that I plan to make. Let's see what that. Anyway, I did use quite an abundance of caulking when I installed it. All the water is really just from when I drained it. There was no leaks here. One of the things I want to do, the Atwood had been installed on the floor of the coach, as all old trailers are. As a result, it hung down below the belt band, this piece of trim, which I really hated the way it hung low and cut into the belt band. I don't know why, I just do, and it just seems odd. So I'm going to try and install the new Suburban high enough up that its whole cover will fit above the belt band. But it may not work because I can't lift it too high, because my future stove, I want the biggest oven, the tall oven, also comes down a fair ways, so it's very, very close. But I have the door, I'm going to check it. First thing to do is to patch up this hole though, because not only do I not have any water, it might be kind of hard to heat tonight, even though in Victoria it's 12 degrees or something today. It will get cool this evening. So first things first, patch it up, clean up the hole first, because I'll epoxy this in. Anyway, we'll get to that. Okay, so I've measured inside from the floor to the bottom of the future large oven, and it comes to 16.5 inches, which is this small mark I've just put here. And here's the new door for the Suburban, and so the flange there at the back would have to line up no higher than that mark. And as you can see, I'm a good inch and a bit above the band at the bottom, so this will look great when it's done. I'll be able to replace this section of band. I have a piece that I took off the rear door, and that'll also give me a little more to do some repairs back there at the generator locker, which are sadly required. Anyway, so time to clean this up and patch it. The technique I'm going to use to patch this is to lay a piece of aluminum on the inside, about 3/4 of an inch bigger on the inside, and epoxy it to the back of the existing skin and temporarily rivet it so it's all solid, and then lay another piece of aluminum that exactly matches the hole, also epoxied, temporarily pop riveted. When the whole thing hardens up, drill out all the pop rivets and fill all the voids with epoxy and sand it fair, and it's as if the hole was never here. This is the technique I used on the back to take out the big gnarly holes, as you may remember, where the original taillights used to be, basically right through here. In fact, I cheated here by adding one more little piece right here, because this is where there was a seam in the skin already. I didn't bother to put a row of fake rivets across there, but basically there was a big hole right here that I patched that same way, which is almost impossible to see. So that worked out pretty well, so I'm hoping this will work just as well. And then once that's all done, I'll just cut a new hole for the hot water heater and slip it in. Of course, I won't get all the body work and the painting done right away, but at least we'll get the bulk of this started. The trick is getting the back side of this really clean. So I have to take the file and then sandpaper. It's got to be sterile clean at the back for the epoxy to hang on well. Anyway, let's keep at it. Good morning. So it's tomorrow and the epoxy's hardened, and I've marked out the opening for the new door, which is I'm gonna go right there. Again, the reason I have it a little higher is because I want to be able to make the belly band go straight through. I've always hated the way it was cut, especially because this thing is 3/4 of an inch higher than this one. It was just never installed well. It's really embarrassing. Anyway, I'm eventually going to change all the banana wrap. So I don't want to attach the banana wrap here too firmly. In fact, I'll caulk it, but just lightly, and then replace the. In fact, I'm going to replace this whole section because I have a piece long enough. Anyway, before I drill out the pop rivets and clean up all the edge here and re-epoxy and fill it, I'm going to cut the hole and install a hot water heater because, well, I don't have hot water. In fact, I don't have any water. I don't even have any gas because I had to disconnect the gas with the hot water heater, so I can't even cook. There is a pub 100 yards from here, but let's get this done. Cheers. So with the hole cut and the heater in place, the only thing left to worry about is some sort of flange. For some reason, the Suburban furnaces don't have a flange on the outside edge. And I hate to leave the edge unsupported. So I bought some lightweight aluminum angle, and I'm starting to put them in. So basically I'll put angles in on the inside, pull the heater into place, and then pop rivet them in from here. It's not entirely structural, but at least it ties the heater into the skin so that it's not flapping in the wind. Let's get to it. Okay, so that's all nice and secure now. I haven't caulked it yet because I'm going to do the body work around the outside of the edge before I do that. Well, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. Basically, I got to get the hot water heater working so I can get some hot water going. So now just to put the cover on, which is held on by 3 screws on the inside, and we're good to go.